Welcome to Becoming Her Again podcast. I'm Avantika, and today I have someone truly special with me. A woman who has lived the immigrant experience in layers most of us can relate to, but also studied it through an academic lens that helps us make sense of what we are going through. My guest today is a marketing professor, a mother, an immigrant who arrived in Canada, and someone who has transformed her own struggles with postpartum depression, cultural displacement, into profound insights that can help all of us navigate this complex journey of motherhood away from home. What makes this conversation unique is that she doesn't just feel what we feel, she can explain it. She can help us understand why making new friends in a new city feels impossible, why postpartum hit differently as an immigrant, and how theories from marketing and psychology can actually untangle the knots in our minds. So grab your coffee, find a comfortable spot, and let's dive into a conversation that's both deeply rich, personal, and academically rich as well. Welcome to the show, Professor Nikita Wag.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Avantika. You were saying such nice things about me, and I'm like, ooh. Thank you so much. You're so
You've
kind.
done all the hard work for the nice things.
Thank you.
Welcome, and let's start from the beginning. So, you arrived as an international student in Canada, leaving behind a thriving digital marketing company in Mumbai. You already had roots established in Mumbai with your own business, yet you chose to uproot yourself for an MBA at TMU in Toronto. So, from an academic perspective, what happens to our sense of identity when we voluntarily leave behind professional success to start over as students in a new country?
Nobody actually prepares us for that because when we are choosing to go to a new place for this fancy dream, ambitious dream that we are dreaming day and night. That's a
Yeah.
vision that we are carrying with us. Like, hey, this is what my life could look like for
Yeah.
whatever reason. For me, it was I did run a company and I had a bachelor's in engineering. I came from a very technical background, but I wanted the dream. I wanted an academic background in business. That is something that got me here. Um, well, at that point, I didn't know I was going to be at the edge of change. There's a word for that. It's liminality. Liminality is when we are in the in between. At that point, we don't realize it. I'm
No.
going to be saying, yes, I know I'll have my family always back home, but well, I am going to leave a certain place and I am going to arrive in a certain place. But the moment my plane lands, that's not actually my arrival. Nobody actually can explain that to us.
Yeah.
We learn to live through that change and we learn to live through that liminal state. And that is the transformation of identity.
Right.
There is certain grief of saying goodbye to our old selves, but also
Yeah.
trying to hold on to the roots because, hey, we never forget our roots,
True.
right?
True.
But also learning to spread our wings in this new place. And that is embodying the transition. That's
Awesome.
that's the phase of liminality. It very much affects our identity because identity is something that is ever changing. It's growing through all the experiences.
Right.
And I don't believe any textbook, any book can teach us that because you learn it only through experience.
Only through that lived
Only through
experience.
experience. It's the lived experience that's going to
Absolutely.
teach us. And the way we learn it, well, everyone's interpretation of that is different. Everyone's embodying of that is very different.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
many immigrant moms listening, they're highly educated professionals who had careers back home.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this phenomenon, when we start over, often in different fields entirely, or even sometimes in lower positions. So, did you experience this in your own journey from a business owner to a student to teacher? And how
Very
did that
much.
sort of reshape how you saw yourself?
Before I even answer this, it was very humbling, Avantika. It was very, very humbling of an experience
I'm sure.
because It truly challenges us. What's my worth?
Yeah.
Is my worth all the degrees? Is my worth, self-worth tied to all the professional accomplishments? Or is my self-worth tied to who I am, what I'm doing in this
Right.
moment? It truly challenged me to think that. Because um, on paper and even through my lived experience, I was very fulfilled, doing very well in Mumbai. But that just got me thinking, what next?
What
Like, what
next?
more can I do? Because, hey, I have my wings, and my wings are all unfurled. So what
Right.
next? That definitely got me here. But again, like I said, no one can prepare you for that. You are entering a completely new culture, a completely new society. And, well, you are joining a race, more like a relay race, where people are already running. You
Yeah.
have to catch up. And when
Yeah.
you have to catch up, sometimes you're going to fumble. So whatever job is coming your way, you're going to take it because, well,
Yeah.
bills have to be paid. So for
True.
me, it was working as a teacher's assistant at the university. It was a very different experience. I led workshops in Mumbai. I volunteered at education institutions. So I did all of that. That was a whole different experience.
Yeah.
This was a different culture, being a teacher's assistant in a different culture. That definitely got me thinking, hey, I didn't have a word for that then, but the power distance is very different. I came from a high power distance culture. High power distance culture meaning um, for professors or teachers, you're going to say ma'am, sir, miss. We're
Yes.
never, ever going to call them by their first name. This is
Right.
just an example, a very tiny example of what a high power distance culture looks like. Uh, as compared to North America, it's a very low power distance culture. And when I make this comment, I don't mean it from a judgmental point of view. It's
Yeah.
from completely an observational point of view.
Yeah.
Because when we judge, we stop learning. But when we
That's true.
observe, well, we learn to embrace it and learn to work in that change. So that's something I realized, like, hey, the power distance is very low. I have to learn how to navigate this system. It
Yeah.
does not matter what job you're doing. It does not matter at what designation you are at.
Yeah.
Well, you're treated equally. The respect is equal. And
Yeah.
that change, adjusting, fine tuning of that in my brain had to happen because I came from a high power distance culture.
Right.
And that's something I had to understand. Like, you know what? Big job, small job, high paying job, low paying job, a fancy executive designation or an entry level job. A job is a job.
Right.
That does not define your self-worth. And that unlearning and relearning as an immigrant had to happen. And
Yeah.
honestly, when I look back, it was more like a rite of passage for me as an immigrant because I got to learn how to go about in this world in a very different culture. And I don't think it is tied only to North America. It is wherever you go, whichever
Right.
culture you are entering. It's
Right.
about being ready to learn. It's about being ready to challenge your beliefs of, hey, this is who I am, and this is my identity, and this
Yeah.
is what makes me who I am.
Yeah.
No, you are who your values are, who you are, how you show up in the world for yourself and for people around you. That's, well, this is just my definition, but
Yeah.
you are who you are in that moment. It's not all the different gazillion titles that you're going to carry because one day you're going to say goodbye to that.
Absolutely.
So
Wonderful.
that unlearning and relearning very much had to happen. Yes, work ground up, had to completely accept that, hey, this is a new place, new system, and I'm going to start from scratch and I'm going to work my way up. But
Yeah.
when I did work my way up, there was a different sense of accomplishment,
Yeah.
not in terms of professional achievements, but in terms of growth. Like, hey, this is what I did as a
Yeah.
person. I completely let go of my identity focused ego. I
Yeah.
let go of that self and was ready to learn, became that student, worked ground up. There's a different kind of learning there. Yeah.
different kind of learning, and like you said, must have been very humbling.
Very humbling. I believe me, I wish I we could skip that part.
But
No,
I
but
think
on a
that's what,
serious
what comes with the
no,
learning
yes,
part
it
of it,
comes
right?
with the territory. You
Yeah,
have to go through that.
yeah.
I use just a disclaimer to all your listeners. I use humor as a coping mechanism.
And that's a wonderful way to put it. So, yeah, coming to my next question, there's a concept called transnational identity, basically living between two worlds. So, even when, you had your business and you set up back in Mumbai, the move you made here in Canada made logical sense, would have felt natural, yet I think you would have been often, stretched across geographies. So, how did you feel about that pull? And how do you think this particularly affects the immigrant mothers?
Oh, this is a long answer, Avantika. This and a question so close to my heart. Transnational identity, living in the in between. That's a contract we sign the day we decide to choose this immigrant identity.
Yeah,
Because your roots are in one place, but your head space, your shoulders, and your wings are in some other place. I remember the day I landed in Toronto, almost a decade ago now. Um, the moment my plane landed, I spoke in my mother tongue and mentioned to myself and mentioned, I landed in Toronto and mentioned Toronto as my karma bhumi, the place where I'm going to work,
yeah,
and my homeland as my Janmabhoomi, Mumbai, India. And just even in that moment, like, hey, this is the place I was born, but this is the place, not necessarily Toronto, but this is the place where I'm going to grow as a professional.
yeah,
That was so clear. Just in that moment, I didn't know that this transnational identity, living in the in between cultures, is going to run deeper than that. It's not just your birth country and your workplace. No, it's going to trickle down into your food culture, just your own culture, because culture is very personal.
yeah,
It's very personal. It's on a society level, on a family level, but it's also on a personal level.
yeah,
It's going to trickle down to your habits, to how you're going to dress up, to how you're going to show up. And it's not just outwardly, it's also inwardly, how you're
yeah,
going to think. And
yeah,
that I was not ready for, Avantika. I was not ready for. I'm like, just few months in the country, and there were so many ideas that got challenged.
yeah,
Um, but that's the thing about living in the in between. And slowly, the acculturation theory comes in. It kicks in. Initially, it's the assimilation where you are in a new place and everything just wows you. And well, it's not just my story. It's a general. We can generalize this because the whole theory explains us that where you're trying to fit in, and there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that in the initial
yeah,
stage because that's the part of growth. That's the part of change where you're trying to assimilate, but slowly the roots, and especially if the roots are strongly anchored, your roots start speaking to you like, hey, but you know what? This part of your identity matters. But
yeah,
hey, you always said, see, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm speaking this. But hey, this festival matters. This
yeah,
food, this exact recipe matters. All of that. Then slowly, people, most of the immigrants, we start moving from assimilation towards truly integrating into the culture. The two different cultures, that's integration. You
right.
take the best of everything and
Yeah,
make the most. Uh, this is very moving for me. You take the best of both cultures and make the most of where you are. You know,
absolutely.
that's powerful. And this is something I embody even as a mother
Yeah,
because I'm constantly questioning. Like, I'll give you something that's happening right now. We are in the thick of winter, right?
yes,
We have snow that is almost knee high today. We had snowfall last night. And we are all cooped up in the house. Like,
Yeah.
And yes, I say this very much from a place of privilege. We have a very comfortable space that we call home. We have very designated areas, playpen and offices and all of that shebang. Yes, we have all of that. But we are in the house the whole time.
Yeah.
And what are we doing with that? We have a house, like we have a space that's full of toys. Coming to culture, the in between. This is the connection. The Indian part of me, the very South Asian part of me who focuses, because that's the culture of a hey, not to indulge a lot. Like,
Yes.
have your priorities set, and that's how much you spend, and that's how you live your life, not going towards the maximalism in terms
Right.
of materialistic needs.
Right.
But also, I live in a world where when we are snowed in, we are snowed in. And yes, I might have lived with that one Barbie doll through my whole childhood, but my child has a room full of toys. And
But that's what you do
to
because
the
you
in
need to keep
between.
them engaged as well.
Yes. So the in between, accepting, like, hey, you know what? We pick what works for us and know there is no guilt attached to it, because this is me integrating into this society as a hyphenated Canadian, hyphenated
Absolutely.
Indo-Canadian, right?
Absolutely. No, I
So
remember, I think
there's no
that's
guilt.
very correct of you to sort of point that out, that the initial phase is more like the honeymoon period. You feel everything is a vacation and you sort of really enjoy,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
the reality gets to hit in.
Yes, and that's when we start thinking like, hey, I cannot just keep assimilating or just accepting, hey, this is nice because, the idea of Western society is always sold into the East, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm not just going to keep accepting this because I truly want to make my life here. And if I want to live authentically, I have
Yeah.
to learn to integrate. And
Correct.
that's when the true belonging starts. And
Correct.
belonging actually starts when gratitude ends. It's a very, very, it's like two opposite things that I'm saying. Because when we are grateful, we are just going to accept anything and everything.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm grateful to be here, but that does not mean that I'm going to be grateful for every little moment of my life. No, that when my gratefulness, my gratitude ends, that's when I realize, hey, I just belong here. I
Right.
got this opportunity, great, yes, but I'm here. I belong here. That's it. And that's when the belonging begins. But that belonging cannot happen if we haven't learned to integrate, accepting of the cultures, and
Yeah.
being comfortable with the idea of, hey, I'm in the in between. When I go back home, I'm not fully the Indian that people expect me to be. I'm not. And I have to learn to accept that. There's no guilt there. There's no shame there, because
Yeah.
we are made of the experiences that we are exposed to.
Yeah.
And there is a certain power in that acceptance.
Wonderful.
I'll be
Wonderful.
lying to myself if I don't accept it.
Integration. So the key
Integration at the
takeaway
end of the
is
day. Yeah.
integration at the end of
Yeah.
the day. Awesome. So, after your MBA, you dove into teaching, your true passion, and there
Yeah.
was a time when you were actually teaching at four different places. Like you were juggling multiple
Many.
contracts while also doing content creation. So, why do you think so many immigrants, especially women, find themselves in this fragmented work life? Because, I want to know what it does to our sense of security. Why are we like juggling so much?
this this is such a layered question, I think, Avantika. First, it's gendered. Biology is not fair to women. It's just not fair to us. We have this time where I have to perform, and then my biological clock is going to tick in, but that's also the time my career is almost going to reach the peak.
Yeah.
So that's why I say biology is not very fair to us. So I think this is one layer that kicks in with immigrant women, that, hey, I am here, wherever that here is. This is my land of opportunity, and I have to make the most of it.
Yeah.
because I don't know when this season of my life is going to change. So that urgency is always there. Then comes the immigrant part of it.
Yeah.
Again, we are not on the fair end of the bargain as an
Yeah.
immigrant, because I have to perform as an immigrant.
Yeah.
Oops.
No
So
worries.
I'm here with the immigrant, the immigrant part of that bargain. That is also not fair to us because we have to perform. We have to perform because if I don't, I arrived as a skilled worker. That's why I got the visa or the permanent residency letter, or yes, the letter that got me into this country, which means I have set number of days or years. Um, if I'm a temporary worker, that's the amount of time I have. Another level of urgency, which means I have to perform.
Yeah.
And for anyone to notice me, I have to be the best. The
Right.
high achiever syndrome kicks in, which of course has so many other outcomes, which we don't realize the costs that we are paying. But there's no plan B for us, especially as women and women who are immigrants. There's no plan B. And if there is a third label to us, a mother, well, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's you just have to do it. You
Yeah.
just have to do it. Like, that's the world. Unfortunately, that's the world we are living in. We don't have a village. We don't have someone who's just going to take care of stuff. Yes, most of us have wonderful partners who understand their role and they share their partnership. They're
Yeah.
not helping us, but they're doing their part. There's a lot of
Yeah.
difference. Most of us have such partners, but still, it's different.
It's
It's
different.
different. We have that small amount of time and that urgency, and we are an immigrant. All of these different identities, they actually just push us to do more
Yeah.
because there's no plan B.
Absolutely. And then we come to the part where the pandemic hits and you get your first house. Now, that's a pretty interesting timing because, many people felt the
Oh,
opposite of being settled during COVID. And
yeah.
there's research about how home ownership typically affects the immigrant integration and belonging. So, did actually owning a home shift how you felt about Canada, or did it make you feel more rooted, or was that feeling more complicated than this?
Yes, great question. So just before the pandemic,
Yeah,
me and my husband we gone to India, and we have a home. Like I said, I had a very very settled life in Mumbai, like a
yeah,
business. We had bought a home, and then we flew abroad. Then we flew out of the country. So we went back to our home in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, and we were like, oh, we did have that was our first brush after many years. We did not go back quickly. We went after a couple of years in Canada. And that was our first brush with this feeling again that, hey, this is what homeownership felt. We just took it for granted.
yeah.
We were pretty settled, and we had we went into that home that we had decorated and laid out, and it was very emotional. we
I'm
flew
sure.
back we flew back to Toronto, and it was in a couple of days that the pandemic restrictions hit.
Wow.
We were I don't want to use the word very lucky. That's a wrong word in this situation, but we just flew back in, and the world kind of just
Shut
paused for a
down. Yeah,
bit, shut
yeah.
down. And well, we lived in Toronto downtown, rented an apartment, right? And that's the thing, it was a 37th floor apartment, so it was a matchbox with a great view. The view was amazing, but it
What
was
a
a
nice way
match
to put it. A matchbox with a view.
but most of the Toronto condo apartments
Yeah,
are like that, no? Like,
yeah,
we
yeah,
it was a new condo building and everything. It was a really fancy place.
yeah.
But we didn't realize how much of a matchbox it was until pandemic hit, because we both are working. He's in his meetings, I'm in my meeting, and I can hear his voice. I'm not okay with that. He was hearing my voice. He was okay with it. But I'm like, no, hey, dude, I cannot work like this. And this is affecting us.
Yeah.
That's when we bought the house, because we had these feelings um, back in Mumbai when we visited.
Yeah.
The feeling of, hey, this is what home ownership felt like, right? And of course, we were working towards getting a home. It's not like something, I do not want to sell the idea that one night we decided and next day we went on a home hunt. No, I'm not selling. We were anyway planning for it,
Yeah.
right? The India visit, it was like a catalyst. It just pushed us towards that even more. The
Yeah.
pandemic made us realize we cannot function like this. It's not
Mm.
working for us, you know? And to just put it in a humorous way, we wanted to live together, and have a beautiful life together. So we decided to
Get a home.
get a home, and we moved away from downtown. So yes, the market was to speak seriously, the market trend was well, the prices were hitting very, very, they were declining.
Yeah.
The market was very much declining. But when in hindsight, it actually worked out for us because we invested at a time when the house prices were really low in
Yeah.
Toronto. And now that house is very well valued. So in hindsight, it worked out for us. When we were in it, we were going with logic, like, hey, we need a space. Why rent out when we have saved up? We saved up for some
Yeah.
time now. We have that money. We can put the down payment. So to your listeners, I want them this as a key takeaway. That was not an emotional decision.
Yeah.
It was very much a logical decision, but yes, some emotions were in play. But
Yeah.
those emotions did not drive it.
Wonderful. And
Yeah.
you mentioned that the feeling to start a family naturally bubbled up after feeling settled after buying that home.
Yeah.
But for all the immigrant women, the
Mm-hmm.
decision to have a baby away from
Mm-hmm.
our mothers, sisters, our familiar support systems, that's loaded with emotions. What was going on through your mind? And did you feel ready or was there fear mixed in?
Um, so first, to tackle the first question, um, when we settled in that house that we bought, it naturally felt like, hey, we are now going to decorate this space and we are going to make it a home. And well, the next natural step, again, in our vision of family was, hey, we need to now probably start with a family. But I've always been this very, very career focused, what next, what's my next goal kind of a person. And if I would go back, and if this were a different world, I might have had a baby much, much earlier. But that's the phase that we were in, right?
Yeah.
I naturally felt like, hey, this feels right now. I'm kind of feeling comfortable in the assignments I'm taking up. My husband was doing very well professionally also. So we both as a team were feeling comfortable, stable enough. Well, stability is just, it's a mirage. I do not believe in the term stability. I really don't. That could be a discussion for another day because there's so much. It's very loaded,
Yeah.
that word. But we felt like, hey, we're doing good. We could take that next step. So that
Hmm.
happened. Again, no amount of textbook reading or book reading can prepare us for this feeling that we
Yeah.
are going to be coming across. Once
Yeah.
you see those two blue or pink lines, suddenly you'll start feeling like, oh my gosh, I need so much support.
Yeah.
There's so much that's going to change. And while you have this feeling, you still cannot calculate, fathom, estimate exactly that change,
Yeah.
because it's something that's eternal,
Yeah.
right? So yes, the whole time, and I did not have an easy fertility journey.
Yeah.
It was a pretty long one. Um, and Yeah. I didn't have many people other than my husband.
Yeah.
Uh, but then that's the thing, he didn't have either, right? So
Yeah.
me saying that, hey, I didn't have anybody other than him, he didn't either. So we
Yeah.
both didn't have
Yeah.
anybody other than each other
Yeah.
when we are sitting in that low, dealing with the stress. And yes, there is stress. There is no shame or guilt in admitting that there is stress when you're going through this change, because there are so many factors that go into the fertility journey.
Right.
And yes, immigrants face a lot of fertility issues because, well, we are living in the in between.
In between. Yeah.
Yes.
And
So,
then came Ottawa, your new teaching position, and the baby. And I think this is where your story takes a turn that so many of us would recognize because, you said postpartum hit different because you were in a new city with limited friends or no friends. There's a concept called social capital, basically, the networks and the relationships that support us during this journey.
yeah.
So, as immigrant moms, I think we often lack this.
Oh,
So,
yes.
could you explain why making friends, especially during postpartum, feels nearly impossible? Because, I want to know what's happening to us socially and emotionally during that time.
Um, Many things here. First, the social capital concept. Social capital is the network that you've built or you inherit. Now, as immigrants, whichever part of the world we immigrate to, land into, we don't carry that social capital. Sometimes our family back home might have that, and we could inherit that through friends of friends of friends. But again, not necessary. It is going to be a part of our network. It might help us navigate the challenges
Yeah,
of landing in. But when we talk specifically of postpartum, it's a whole different phase because we are, as mothers, we are changing. We
yeah,
are changing. There's so much happening biologically, emotionally, mentally in us. And there is that little human whose whole world is me.
yeah,
That little human's whole world is me.
yeah,
And this is something I keep saying. Biology trumps everything. Like, if I'm type A, my husband is type A plus 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 plus. My husband is amazing at what he does. He plans and he's so thoughtful. But the point is, biology trumps everything, Avantika. It
yeah,
does not matter. He's ready to stay up late, but if the kid wants me, the baby wants me, the baby wants me,
yeah,
right? If the baby wants to sit with me, the baby wants to cuddle with me, well, I have to be there.
yeah,
And this also, while all moms are doing this, we are united in this effort.
yeah,
Yes, from a vibes energetic point of view, we are all very united in this effort. We all are sitting through the nights. We all are feeding our babies,
yeah,
but we are doing it still by ourselves
yeah,
in the middle of the night, sitting in the nook of our bedroom, and that's why it is so isolating.
yeah,
It is isolating as is, but as an immigrant mother in a new city, in a new culture, it's supremely isolating. We
yeah,
don't realize how isolating it is. I wish I could go back to my old self and tell her, you know what? You'll get through this night. You
yeah.
will. See, I'm getting goosebumps again. You'll get through
Same
this
here.
night. But it's just isolating, and making friends is difficult because all of us are going through the exact same thing. So,
Right.
one thing that I wish I would have done was just going out for that cup of coffee,
Yeah,
just sitting in that cafe, because I do that. When I'm
yeah,
out at a cafe and I see a mom with a baby, the little stroller, I'll always just probably not disturb her, not get into her zone, but just give her that smile. If she's comfortable, ask her about her day. It's
yeah,
very important. It's
yeah.
so important. We might think, oh, this is what? This is just a little question. No, it's not. That
No.
could be the only adult human interaction she's had
Had
in
during the
probably
day. Yes,
during
yes.
the
And
day
that
or
is
the
so
week.
real. We just don't give it so much value, but that
No,
would probably be the only interaction she would have. had in
Yeah.
the entire day. So yes, it does
I
make a difference.
I remember there were times me and my husband would go uh days without having conversation with each other because he's kind of doing his stuff. He's doing his part to take care of the family system,
Yep.
and I'm doing my part because I'm on mat leave and I'm taking care of the baby. And then we also have two beautiful dogs, and we each would take turns to take care of our dogs. And the only conversation that I'd have was with my dogs, and they are such great listeners, Avantika. I wish they could reply back. I would be startled if they replied back in bed, but I wish they could, because that was my only interaction in my postpartum. Other than me speaking to my baby who would reply with the goose and the gas, there was no adult interaction so much. Yes, there are WhatsApp calls and family calls, but it's still different. And then the guilt, like, should I be getting the screen in my baby's face? Will my baby get attracted to it too much? So many questions as a new mom, but not a big village to answer those questions. And it just gets difficult.
And then you tried to create your village by inviting your in laws, but you mentioned that one of
I
them had
did.
a fall and they had to leave, which is very heartbreaking. You literally imported support and it still fell apart. So there's a research on imported care networks and how fragile they are. So,
They
what did
are.
losing that support do to you, and how did you actually survive those initial few months?
I did invite my so for me, I had not invited my in-laws. I also have extended family here in Toronto,
Yep,
and we live in Ottawa. So they were visiting my sister-in-law,
yep,
and well, that trip had the universe had just worked it out for us, I think. The trip was very well planned in advance, and then the news came out like, hey, our family's growing, and then they're like, oh, we could plan the visit, and well, things just naturally fell in place. And we were like, we were so glad they were here.
yep,
Really, the invited village, as I call them. We were so glad our invited village was here. But something that, again, our selves who did not have that experience, they didn't know then was, well, invited village comes with their own issues because
yeah,
they are navigating two cultures. We are residents here. We are permanent residents or citizens. We have decided to spend probably the rest of our lives here. They are visiting us.
yeah,
This is a different culture, temperature, the food system, everything. This is different for them,
yeah,
right? Right from going about in the house to going about in the society, they have to learn everything from scratch, and at the same time supporting. It just it's difficult. It's a change for them too. And
yeah.
at that time, having well, in our case, one of my in-laws, they stumbled, they fell in the bathtub, and they had a fall, and that was scary because when your family arrives on visitor visa, yes, you have insurance, but then you always have
Costs,
that
medical
the
costs.
costs.
Yeah,
Is everything covered? And if it's not covered, you, of course you're going to pay. Of course
yeah,
it's your family, you're going to pay. But the point is the uncertainty of
yeah,
it all. While one of the partners is on mat leave or parental leave, right? There's so many dynamics in play. And again, coming from the South Asian culture, uh, speaking about all this is so fragile in itself. It's so fragile in itself. Sometimes talking about money. How are we talking about it? You
yeah,
know, all of these are complex dynamics, and that happening in the postpartum, and that happening with your invited village. Well, it's a fragile territory. Very much fragile territory, I'll say. So if I could go back, I'd tell my younger self this. If you're inviting your village, please update your expectations. It's very
yeah.
important.
Very wonderfully put.
Your cousin back home the kind of confinement and postpartum care that he, she, they got will not look exactly the same you're going to get.
Yeah.
And you cannot hold that against them.
Right.
That growth, that maturity has to happen. Because this is an invited village. They are traveling and they are aging as well.
Yeah.
This is the point of view sometimes us immigrants we miss,
Yeah.
because the relationship is developing over WhatsApp calls and FaceTime calls,
Yeah.
and most of the times um, our minds, the images stuck in our minds are from a few years ago.
Yeah.
We forget that they're aging, they're
Yeah.
growing, they're reaching, they're very much in their senior years, and um, the way I look at it is we are the ones who have to support them in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they are arriving, we have to make sure that they are transitioning well in this new environment and climate. But I also understand we are in the middle of the change too with the postpartum. So it's just tricky. And as you
That's
said, fragile. It's so fragile to
And
handle
then you said your
relationships.
husband, he took on more work during your maternity leave, and but still your baby would have had her feeding preferences, which would have added to the stress. So as a first-time mom, navigating this alone, really resetting your expectations with your invited village. So what kind of labor were you doing that you think nobody saw?
A lot of emotional labor. Honestly, even I didn't see that. And I'm sad. I'm very sad to say this. I didn't see that either. I was just doing it. A
Yeah,
lot of emotional labor. After doing the reproductive labor for 9 months and doing the postpartum labor, I was also doing a lot of emotional labor, trying to just keep things running and moving,
yeah,
you know? Um, and honestly, I didn't even have a word for it. How would I know? That's why I think my postpartum journey got me into this mode, this zone of, hey, I need to label everything. And no, I do not mean label on the jars or label on my journal. No, I mean label to experiences. Because if I
correct.
am not able to label an experience, an emotion, a feeling,
Yeah,
I will not have language for it. And
yeah,
I do not, when I say language, I don't mean English language
yeah,
or my mother tongue. I mean the vocabulary
correct.
to express this is what I'm going through. I did not realize I'm doing this emotional labor the whole time, you know, uh, until very later on when I got diagnosed with postpartum depression and anxiety. Of course, the
And
emotional
that's
labor
exactly my next question,
turned
that
it. Okay.
you got into intense therapy with the postpartum depression, and
Yes.
which you mentioned, learning about new vocabulary to label your experiences. So this is so important. Sociologists and psychologists say that naming our pain gives us power over it.
Oh,
So,
yes.
just like a layman, what were some of these words or concepts that helped you understand what you were going through? And if you could share a few that might
Oh,
help our
absolutely.
listeners, just in a very layman language, that, just by naming these experiences gives us the power.
Absolutely. Great question. Um, so the emotional labor that started, I did not realize it was resulting in a lot of fatigue. This is a
Yeah,
very technical term, but fatigue is extreme tiredness. Like, hey, I'm tired. This is not, yes, postpartum anyway tires you out. The
yeah,
hormonal change anyway tires you out. But day and night, you're just tired the whole time. Yes, you're sleepless. You're going through sleepless nights, the the gazillion feedings and bottle cleanings and nappy changes, all of that. But just being tired the whole time, that fatigue, that is what got me questioning, should I be feeling this? This constant feeling of tiredness? And sometimes also not remembering the brain fog,
oh,
another
that's real.
fancy technical word. It's so real. And another thing, coming from a South Asian background, not many elders will even guide you here. And I know I do not say this, let me clarify. I do not mean this like, hey, they did not guide me. No, they didn't know themselves,
Yeah.
right? This I'm
Yeah.
saying with a lot of grace and kindness. They didn't know themselves. So, well, it's upon me to
Yeah.
learn, to educate. So my future generation doesn't have to go through. If they're going through, they'll come to me and I'll have the answers for them.
Yeah.
So see, again, I got that goosebump because this experience is so real to me.
Yeah.
The fatigue, the brain fog, the constant confusion. And I remember sitting down and uh one day we were sharing me and my husband, we like sharing a cup of tea or coffee. We call it chai pe charcha or gup shop, something like that, depending on the mood. And we were sharing this cup of tea or coffee, and we got talking. And this is important,
Yeah.
because when we are going through, the only other person in an immigrant life, the postpartum, the only other person who is witnessing it
Yeah.
is the partner.
Yeah.
For me, it was my spouse, my husband, who was witnessing me go through all the fumbling and stumbling and sleeplessness and the fatigue, and he didn't have that vocabulary either. But in his own way, he started explaining what he was seeing in me, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. I'm so busy taking care of the baby and just going about my life here that I'm not realizing I didn't have a moment to myself to even sit down and think that, hey, all of these are red flags. I
Yeah.
need to go seek professional help. And there is no guilt, no shame attached to it. This is also something uh, I think we have to learn as part of the South Asian community diaspora. We
Yeah.
have to learn that. We have to unlearn that. There's no
Yes.
no problem. There is no issue, no guilt, no shame in seeking help, because just the way you would go to a doctor if you had fever and cold,
Yeah.
you should go to a doctor and a professional when you're feeling overwhelmingly tired.
Yeah.
That's
So
that
I think one
was
of the symptoms you would say was fatigue and the brain
all the
fog.
time. Brain fog, fatigue, confusion.
Yeah.
And I am inherently a very logical person. That's been one of my strengths all
Yeah.
my life. And that's something I learned in therapy. When we are in survivor zone, I'm no psychologist, just a disclaimer to your listeners. So
Yeah.
this is something I learned. I'm sharing my experience here.
Yeah.
When we are operating in a survivor zone, in a survivor mode, our connection with logic gets disrupted. I
Okay.
didn't know that. This happened after intense therapy when I realized, hey, I'm having so much trouble staying logical these days, connecting everything logically. And that was one of my very early learnings in therapy. Oh, I'm constantly in survivor mode. I have to learn to observe what are my symptoms.
Yeah.
How am I going to exit this survivor mode when I'm in that zone? Like, just trying to being reactive. Hey, something has happened. I have to take care of it. I have to take care of it, and I have to fix it, and I have to keep things moving. And, that's survivor mode. And no, again, there is no guilt or shame attached to it. That is the season of life. And sometimes our hormones, our body just doesn't go with it. For me, it happened that way. My hormones, my body, again, early life experiences also play.
Yeah.
All of that was a tangled mishmash, and I did not have vocabulary for that. I didn't know how to explain what I was feeling. But I'll tell you, when I look back, there are times I feel I was very much stuck in one place. I was doing everything, like my hands and my legs are moving, right? I'm getting things done, but in my mind, I'm stuck and
Yeah.
I'm
Physically
tired.
you were mobile, but in your
Yeah.
head you were just stuck.
So intense therapy
Intense
helped,
stuff.
very much helped. But there came a time, this was at the end of my mat leave. I took a mat leave for exactly 1 year. I'm an educator, so my semester starts in September. And my baby was also born in September. Um, 1 year cycle ended in September. I was like, this is the time to go back to work. And otherwise, I'll have to again wait for a semester. Probably. I'm not a big fan of joining mid-semester, take over somebody else's class. It's not fun especially for students. I don't want to be that educator. So very logically, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back to work at the 1 year mark. We segued into daycare. That was another heartbreak. It was so brutal, the transition. Oh my gosh. But when I went back to work, there were other stresses, the work stresses, and then switching back into the mommy mode. I was doing it for one semester. I kind of went through the fall semester. Then the winter semester hit. Winter anyway, it's kind
Brutal.
of intense, it's
Brutal.
brutal. It's so
Yeah.
brutal. The weather's not helping you. There's no sun and the stresses of work. And I remember at that point, most of my classes were in the evening. So my baby would come home and then I would say bye-bye and then I would go for my class in the evening. And this was, I think, 3 or 4 classes that semester, the whole of winter. It really took a toll on me. Yes, I was in therapy. I was in therapy, I think, since 5 months, 4 months postpartum. And at that point, it was almost 1.5 years I was in therapy. But therapy helps you think through things. It helps you identify, hey, this is a dysfunctional pattern. This is not going to help me. I have to fix. It brings in a lot of awareness. It's good. It's very good. Therapy, I think therapy is like your annual blood check, but the frequency has to be higher, not annual. It keeps us in check mentally, emotionally, what's happening. It keeps us in check with our body. Hey, this is what I'm feeling, where I'm feeling. And it teaches you skills to let emotions pass through you. Therapy did all of that. But then came a time when I'm doing everything. But why is it so difficult? I couldn't answer that. And that's when, again, the person who's witnessing it the most, my husband, he's like, probably we should just see the doctor, our family doctor. I'm not saying anything, but the doctor will tell us if we need, and the language is so important. I think my husband learned the language he needs to use when I'm in that vulnerable state. It's
Yeah.
so important, not blameworthy, not you using
We.
the we's. It's so
Yes.
important because
Yeah.
language is empowering. Language is validating.
Yeah.
Language makes us feel like, hey, the problem is not with me. The
It's
problem
us. Yeah.
exists by itself and we are navigating through it. Language is
Yeah.
so powerful. So that's one thing I'll talk about him. But the conversation, I remember, again, this was over tea or coffee. Tea or coffee plays a very important part in our life. When
Likewise.
isn't
I'm
it?
a tea person, not so much into coffee, but yeah.
For me, it depends. I'm
Yeah.
fine. Oh gosh, your South Asian listeners will be like, "What did you just say?" No, for me, tea and coffee both. But sticking to the problem, one such chai pe charcha happened, and he was like, "Probably we should book that appointment." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go, let's go." I didn't know what to expect out of that appointment, but well, professionals are professionals, aren't they? My doctor asked me a bunch of questions. And by the end of that questionnaire, I remember this. This is the feeling I had in my heart. Did he read my journal? How does he know what I'm feeling? How does he exactly know where my state of mind is? I had just walked in. We had exchanged pleasantries and we started with the questionnaire because I had mentioned while booking the appointment, why I'm booking the appointment, right?
Yeah.
We started with the questionnaire, and at the end of the questionnaire, I realized, hey, probably I need to go the medication route. Now I'll tell you this, I was not ready for that. And another unlearning had to happen. I didn't know I was carrying that block in my head and my heart. Like, I don't want to be eating medicines. No, I think I have a strong mind. You know, especially as a South Asian, we grow up in a culture where, our mind is everything. You
Yeah.
have a strong mind. You can just pull up your socks and go through the day. And yes, I have been that person, but how I wish I was not that person. I would have gotten help very early on. Why am I talking about this? Not to say, oh, poor me. Absolutely not. Because there are so many women out there exactly like me. I know, going through the experiences I went, probably uh, sitting at the same intersection. Should I go for that medication route or not?
Yeah.
I'd say, well, you do you, but I'll tell you my experience. I started those meds, and no, those were very low dose meds that we started with,
Yeah.
because I was anyway in therapy. I was very much aware of what I'm going through, but I
Yeah.
still had trouble going through all those changes as an immigrant mother,
Yeah.
right? With no village to call her own. The meds don't kick in instantly. It's a lot of being aware, okay? It takes a couple of weeks sometimes. Well, all meds are different. I'm talking about the ones I took.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks in, and I started realizing, oh, I can walk straight now. And this is a physical change that happened. And when
Wow.
I realized, I have journaled it. When I realized it, I remember thinking that, oh, I was carrying weight on my shoulders the whole time. It was a
Okay.
physical symptom my body was carrying. I did not realize, of depression and anxiety. I was carrying it. And slowly, the weight and pressure of depression and anxiety lifted. I went through the meds for some time, and my cycle ended in 1 year. I went through the meds for 1 year, then um, less than a year, because then we trailed it off, because you cannot just stop it. It's your
Yeah.
brain at the end. It's
Yeah.
chemicals.
Yeah.
It's chemicals. Just the way to fight a bacteria, you need the antibiotics. If there is some chemical imbalance, you need the support. No amount of willpower or determination is going to help you in that. You will still need willpower and determination when you're eating the meds.
Yes, absolutely. And I was just
I'm
going to
not,
applaud you
yeah,
for that. You have been brave to take that step that I need
it's a,
medication and I need to have it because like you said, there was a block in the mind that why would I need medication? But then to
yeah.
unlearn that and actually consume the medicines, I think it was very brave on your part.
Oh, now when you put it that way, I do not see myself like that, because I remember crying and saying, why am I? And then, why should I be eating this? The first week I did that. Second week I was a little more accepting of that. By third week I realized, you know what? This is helping me. I can
Yeah.
go to work. I can be my best version, and the depression and anxiety is going to say bye bye to me. I am going to exit that dark tunnel, because that is um to your listeners, if someone is actually battling with depression and anxiety, this is something that hit me when my doctor asked me a question. And there were medical questions very much, but there was a question that was mind related when I really felt seen. Is where do you feel your mind is? And my answer to that was, I feel I'm in a dark space and I'm stuck in a tunnel. I was not very much in the end of the hopelessness, because that is a state of
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
I was not there. I was in a very dark space in that tunnel, and I could see the light, but it was far away. And how much ever I tried to run towards that in my head, I couldn't reach that. That's exactly what I told my doctor. And then
And that
came
question stayed in your mind.
yeah, and I still use that as a metaphor
Yeah.
to assess where I am mentally, because again, we sometimes think that, hey, I'll eat the meds and I'll be cured. Well, it's an ongoing thing that's going to happen sometimes with stresses. And there is some form of there's some kind of humility in accepting that about yourself. That's why,
Wonderful.
coming back to that very first question you asked me, my experience as an immigrant has been very humbling. Very
Wonderful.
humbling.
Wonderful.
There's
Thank you.
humility in accepting that,
Thank you
because
for
it's an
giving us these
ongoing
insights. And I know the conversation's gotten a little bit intense and deep
intense.
here.
Oh, we said the
So
same word.
So now I want to sort of, before getting into how your academic world started colliding with all of this, I just want to sort of take a little bit of a detour and have a little fun because I think you're the perfect person for this. But
Okay.
also, I'm going to try something different and just for my listeners to sort of get a little bit of a breather from the heavy, intense conversation. So
Okay.
I'm going to describe a couple of scenarios, very real, very messy immigrant mom moments. And I
Okay.
want you to give me two answers.
Sure.
First, the academic professor answer, what's
Mm-hmm.
happening, and then what you as a human actually thought or felt in that moment.
Okay.
So, one, the professor
Okay.
answer, and second, the Nikki answer.
Okay.
So, basically, the idea is just to, let you show both sides of yourself, the professor brain and the real human brain, and which is exactly what makes your story compelling. So, the first scenario, you're on a work call, your baby's napping, and you
Mm-hmm.
feel guilty that you're relieved to have an hour to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Break that down for us, first as a professor and then as a person.
Ah, I'm on a work call. Yes. Well, my academic brain tells me that um, as a high achiever, you're always going to tie a lot of your who you are. I don't want to use the word identity, but yes, identity to your professional achievements. Like, hey, I need to be this. I have to be this. And this is what a professional looks like, right? There's one part of my brain that is constantly going to think that. But again, we have to challenge that,
Yeah.
because I am not only a professional, I'm also a mother. And most of the times, my mother identity is going to trump that professional identity. And integrating these two ideas is very important. It's very
Awesome.
important. So that would be the academic answer to this question, because being a high achiever is a non-negotiable as an immigrant and as a mother, and you have limited hours, so you have to do what you have to do. And if the mother side of you is calling you, you have certain expectations out of you as a professional. You would want to fulfill those. So that
Awesome.
conflict very much occurs. That conflict is understandable.
Okay.
Going to the emotional part of it, the conflict is tough, because it's a tug of war between my brain and my heart. My heart wants to be with my kid, but my brain is like, you know what? This is on your calendar and you have to go through that. So that tug of war is very real. The guilt trap is very real. Going down the guilt lane is very real. And believe me, if we allow our brains to, because, that's the emotional part of me too. If I allow my brain to guilt trap me, to guilt trick me, well, my brain's fantastic as it is. My brain does a good job with whatever task I assign my brain with. So if I'm assigning my brain with guilt tripping me, my brain's going to do a fantastic job of that. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to feel. The conflict, the guilt, I am going to feel that. But uh, the Nikki, who is both of these, not overly academic, not overly emotional, the Nikki in me tells me that, you know what, you've got to integrate these two identities. Like this week, I had multiple very important calls, and my office is a mess, but it's a beautiful mess. It's my child's childhood.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful. I cannot actually show you, but it's a beautiful mess in here. And she sits with me whenever she's home. She sits with me, and sometimes her little face will peek up in the call, and we just say hi. And now she also knows it's not a big deal. She'll
Yeah.
just quickly say hi and she'll go back. But if I would have always told her, please don't join, don't do this,
Yeah.
don't do that, she'd always be curious because she's a kid. That's what she's going to do. I
Yeah.
integrated that.
Yeah.
I integrated that. Both of these experiences, and that conflict slowly, I'll not say it has disappeared. It's still very much here, but it's slowly releasing its hold on me.
Awesome. Let's get to the next scenario. Someone says, but you chose to immigrate when you express longing for home. Academic framework versus your gut reaction.
Academic framework is, well, you have to learn to hold space. It's important. Psychology also tells us that empathy is one thing, and
Yeah.
you cannot just say I'm empathetic. You have to practice it.
Yeah.
And constantly saying, well, you chose that. Yes, they know they chose that, but they're allowed to feel the grief.
Yeah.
They're allowed to feel the pain that they're feeling right now, that was born out of that choice. It's important. We
Right.
cannot guilt trip them into thinking, but you chose that. Yes, I chose motherhood,
Yeah.
but it's tough. Yes, I chose to immigrate. I chose to make a new life in a completely new country, but it is difficult. And these are two truths that can still hold true.
Both can be true.
Both can be true
Awesome.
because they are true. And
Correct.
they're brutal.
They're brutal. Scenario number 3. You've been in Canada for years. Someone asks you where you're from. You pause before answering because you're not sure which answer they want. So again, academic versus Nikki.
Academic has many interpretations here, depending. I have that also on my social profile. But one thing that comes to mind is a micro insult. Like, because you think I don't look a certain way, I might not be from here. And
Yeah.
it's very racialized in a way. It's very racialized because um, the person who's asking this question has an image in their mind
Yeah.
of how a person who belongs here should look like. That's not on me. That's your problem.
Correct.
You know? And initially, early in my earlier years, I would feel a little like, okay, I always have to explain. Now, I just say I'm from Toronto because I moved from Toronto and
Yeah.
now I'm in Ottawa. But I don't give them that explanation, and I let them just sit with that. If you are going to go ahead and ask me the second question, then let's see.
Okay. If there is a follow-up question, then we'll
From
see.
them.
Awesome. Perfect. I think that's a great explanation. Scenario number 4.
Yeah.
Someone says, you should be grateful you live in Canada. You
Mm.
mean, they mean well, but you also feel that something tightened up in your chest. So professor explanation and then honest reaction.
Uh, Gratitude tied to opportunity. That
Yeah.
is what it is. When someone is saying you should be grateful, they're saying grateful because you got an opportunity that many people don't get. They're speaking from a place, they're seeing us through a lens where not many people have that privilege to be where we are. They're seeing from that lens. And when I explain myself this, the logical part of me understands. Like, hey, okay, I get it what you're saying. I get it. I got the opportunity. But there's also part of me, that's where my emotional reaction comes in, where I'm like, but you know what? I work for this. When
Correct.
you say just be grateful, you're saying I was handed this. No,
No.
I worked for this. I went through the school system. I got certain grades. I got placed somewhere professionally. I worked there, and I worked a system that was in Mumbai, India. I worked a system that was not made for me as a woman and a woman of color. I navigated all that, and you are saying I should just be grateful? No, I'm angry.
Honest. I like that. The next scenario, scenario 5, someone tells you it takes a village. You're in a
Mm.
city where you approximately know 4 or 5 people, two of whom you've actually met on Facebook groups. So, academic response to the village myth versus your actual village roster at the time.
Uh, Village is, well, your social capital. And to have that means it's the privilege. You have it. Not
Yeah,
everyone has it.
yeah,
This is something that I learned with experience. When I was in it, I very much felt very bad because I did not have that social capital. I did not have that village. And I was learning to make new friends in a new seat in a new city while being in a new phase myself.
yeah.
So the emotional reaction to it is felt very isolating. And one thing that I would want to say to my older self or anyone navigating this phase is reach out to people, even if it's community groups. Don't have a checklist. Like they should check all these boxes because your village, your new village that you are building intentionally might not fit all the boxes, but take what's coming your way
Yeah,
and work with what you're getting for now. I'm not saying just accept it and make it your inner circle. No.
right.
But some help is better than no help. Some support, whatever that may be, is better than no support at
Yeah,
all.
that's a beautiful way to put it. Some help is better than no help, and especially during the early postpartum days. I would agree with that. Now, let's get back to our conversation. The academic awakening, where, theory meets reality. So, after almost an year of mat leave, you went back to work, being away from a baby during those evening classes as an educator. I can just say it must have been really painful, but there's this pressure on mothers to bounce back to work, to
Mm,
prove that we are still
mm.
committed professionals. But how about when the work itself is, very, very emotionally draining? How do we navigate that guilt and exhaustion?
Ah, I don't know. You just do it. That's the the emotional part of me saying, "Oh, I'm so tired."
Yeah,
Because as an educator, but on a serious note, as an educator, it is an emotional labor.
yeah,
You being in a classroom full of young adults. I teach young adults.
yeah,
I don't teach kids. I teach young adults. So navigating that classroom environment, making sure you set the expectation, you do what you do as an educator, right? And then you come home and your quota for emotions is almost at zero.
yeah,
But you still have to give because you have a family. But somehow you pull in through the reserves that are already, and then you go in the deficit.
yeah.
And that's where it gets tricky. So setting something that helped me was setting a me time for
Okay.
myself over the weekend or during a weeknight after the baby slept. But having that me time, it could be reading a book or getting that hot cup of coffee or tea, but just sitting with myself, my thoughts, journaling something, even if it's a 20-minute catch up
Yeah,
with
yeah,
myself.
yeah,
That helped me navigate that. I'm still doing that. I still do that. That 20 minutes, sometimes, especially in an intense semester like the one I'm in right now, winter semesters are intense. Sometimes I need 20 minutes to myself every day,
yeah.
just some catch up. It helps me navigate the tense moments.
Wonderful. And then, like you mentioned, you went on medication and learned another new vocabulary, but this time as an immigrant and as an immigrant mother. So, what did you learn about yourself through this lens? How does being an immigrant complicate mental health in ways people might not really understand?
Mm, it's very layered here because first, your immigrant identity,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're in a new place. So you're always thinking, probably it's because it's a new place. Probably because it's a new workplace. Or probably because I have so many different visas and forms to fill. It's just the pressure of it all. But the
yeah,
point is, something that every immigrant and every immigrant mom should know is this: feeling heavy, feeling that pressure all the time is not normal. It does not matter. It does not matter where you are, in which phase of life you are in. I'm not trying to sell you the idea that you should feel happy 24/7, 365. No.
yeah,
What I'm trying to say is you have to be aware of what you're feeling and
yeah,
not doubt that. If your mind, our mind is very powerful, Avantika. If your mind is telling, hey, I'm feeling sad, trust. That trusting yourself matters. So that's one layer to it. Then we add the motherhood layer that I already elaborated on.
yeah,
And unlearning the fact that medication, just the way you would get medical help for an injury,
yeah,
fever, cold, it's the same thing. You should get medical help, professional help for something that you're dealing with your mind, because your mind is everything. You cannot lose your mind.
correct, correct.
And I say this
And
with a lot of kindness and grace.
yeah, and I think here's where the story becomes really powerful because you said that, as an immigrant, the life can be explained through academic theories. But as a marketing professor, you've also explored psychology and consumer behavior.
A
So,
lot.
could you give us an example? Like, what's that one theory or framework that made you go, oh my God, that's exactly what I've been experiencing?
Um,
Any one, just one.
uh,
Just any one experience, that you would say, oh my God, that was the aha moment that, yes, this is exactly what I'm feeling.
this actually happened in therapy,
Yeah.
and the when we are in therapy, this is the talking that we do.
Yeah.
That is the therapy that I was in. They used cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. That's the fancy word for it.
Okay.
And it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of dialogue, and how we talk, how we reference certain incidents. Your therapist is noting down everything, and they're asking you why you said what you said. And that
Yeah.
actually makes you question. One such session I was in, and my therapist by that time had realized, this is story time, more like framework time, but there's very much frameworks in it, strategies to tackle. Um, but my therapist had realized, like, I'm more like, you tell me what it is, I will do my research and I'll attack it.
Yeah.
Don't make me sit through 5 sessions, and then at the end of 5 sessions I'm going to lose motivation. That's the
Yeah.
kind of person I am. My therapist had realized it. And one such day, she introduced me to a website. I forget the name of it. I think it is DBT Tools or something.
Okay.
DBT Tools. It has all the different tactics, methods to help yourself when you are in conflict. Okay?
Okay.
That conflict is, most of the times, conflict is mental.
Right.
But shifting your brain to focus on something else takes a lot of effort. Because now your brain is focused on, hey, this is the problem in front of me. And now I have to shift. But how do we do it? And I
Yeah.
remember in those early postpartum days, I went through that website, and one of it was temperature, changing temperature. And I started practicing it. One simple thing that I did whenever I was overwhelmed with something, I would just go and wash my hands with cold water.
Oh, yes. Nervous system reset.
Nervous system reset. And there
Right.
are so many different tactics. And I was like, oh, this is so simple. But this was my turning point
We
because
tend to
you asked
forget
me
it in
that.
our daily lives. These little
But
resets are very important.
and that is also embodying
Yeah.
where the change, we have to embrace it fully in our bodies. The change, that's when that change happens.
Yeah.
Just remembering it from like, hey, I remember this and it's superficially seated somewhere in my brain. That's one thing. But
Yeah.
embodying that change to a point where, hey, I'm going to remember this. It's a part of me, just like writing with right hand. I'm a right-handed person, is a part of me,
Right.
right? I don't have to think about it. Why? Because I practiced it enough, isn't it?
Awesome. That's
But
a
when
wonderful way. Yeah.
when I'm in conflict, going and washing my hands, I can do that if I practice it.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of patience and
Right.
grace. And
Right.
this is something I'd want to leave with, leave as a message with immigrant moms is there will be tens and hundreds of theories and frameworks. And I love reading all of them. I love sharing and talking about it. But at the end of the day, change comes in that one tiny moment
That's
of
true.
creating a habit.
That's true.
That
Absolutely.
theory, that framework is not going to come to you.
Absolutely.
Read it, but pick that one habit, and whatever that habit is, whatever is doable for you in that moment, you do that
You
and
do
keep
that.
practicing it. I,
Right.
I remember in my early postpartum days, it would be washing of hands. And then slowly it became, after washing of hands, I fill a cup of, and all with my left hand, not with my right. With my
Right.
left hand, because right hand is habit. I'm
Habit.
not going to think.
Yeah.
I'm not going to activate a different part of my brain. I'm doing it with my
Right.
left hand, so it's conscious. It's going to slow me down.
Right.
Fill a glass of water, drink it with my left hand, and then place it on my left side. This is something I did, but
Yeah.
it worked for me. And
Yeah.
every time I am in conflict, I do it. I do it every single time, just like habit. And because I did it, now I realize this is a win for me. When I look back, hey, I can actually identify when I'm in conflict.
Yes.
Because now my
Absolutely.
habit is to go and wash my hands with cold water and drink that glass of water.
Absolutely. No,
It's
absolutely
just
wonderful
all the frameworks that we are going to come across. But at the end of the day, we have to make it meaningful for
yeah,
us.
for
We have
us.
to translate it for
Right.
us. And it does not matter how long you are in therapy, how much medication someone is taking, but the point is, how are you translating that to your
Right.
life?
Right.
That will make all the difference.
That is a very meaningful takeaway, and I thank you for
Oh,
sharing that for all
thanks.
the immigrant mothers. Before we wrap up, I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
Um, if you could give one piece of academically informed but also emotionally resonant advice to a mom in a new city, new baby, drowning in
Hmm.
isolation, what would you like to tell her?
Two words first. Two academic terms come to mind. Embodied transition. That's the first one. It means you are changing. Your body is changing. And I already spoke about this word called liminality at the beginning of today's session. When you're at
Yes.
the edge of change as an immigrant and when
Yes.
as a mother, it's a lot of change. So because you are in this change and you are in between an identity, you're saying goodbye to an identity. Yes, sadly, um, if you have not yet given birth, let me break it to you. You are going to say goodbye to an identity and you are going to say hello to an even more fabulous identity that you don't know. You haven't met her yet, but believe me, she's going to be fantastic.
That's
That
true.
is liminality, and that is embodied transition. That's one word, one concept. And another concept, I wish I could go back to my older self, but life doesn't give us those chances. So another word is role overload. It's a very real truth. It's a very real experience that mothers have in postpartum. You are going to do a lot, and you are going to expect a lot out of yourself, but you have to tell yourself, like, hey, I need to take a pause. It's important. People, researchers, sociologists have studied this concept. It's very real. You don't have to do it all. You have to take one day at a time, one task at a time, and something that you cannot do, cannot do. Just live with it. It's okay. Sun is going to rise tomorrow. You know, if I don't clean that water bottle the way I want to, it's not like sun is not going to rise tomorrow. The sun will rise. That bottle, I can clean it tomorrow. I could just put it in the dishwasher and not feel bad about it. Probably wash it with water later on. But you see, these are all the questions even I had in my mind. I'm just speaking my mind.
Right.
Two concepts. Change
Beautiful.
is inevitable, and the overload is also inevitable.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And the last question,
Yeah.
at this point in time, what does becoming her again mean to you from an academic lens?
Is it like a personal question for me?
You can,
Oh,
interpret
okay.
as you like.
Becoming her. First, I love your podcast. It
Thank you.
all the concepts, and it's also very personal. The reason why I got confused, it's a personal question for me. Uh, Becoming her for me is about becoming aware of who you are becoming and
Right.
learning to accept her,
Right.
but also holding space for, hey, I do miss my old parts. It's okay. You can miss those old parts while embracing your new version. These two truths can exist. And I think this is something Becoming Her, your podcast, talks about all the time. And that's how I got connected to that podcast. I was listening to the very first episode you had posted, and I was driving back home, and I was like, I'm not a person who cries very, like, listening to something and cries. No, I'm not that
Yes.
person. But I was driving back home one such intense lecture, and I was like, she's speaking my heart. How does she know that? And your voice, it's so calm and it's so relaxed and it's so validating. I felt seen. And this
Thank
was
you.
a fall evening. I remember that. So that's Becoming Her for me. Like, you talk
Beautiful.
about the change, you talk about accepting, and you talk about, hey, your old self, you've said goodbye to her, and it's okay to sometimes miss her, because she was pretty fantastic too.
Exactly. And I always say this, why would you want to actually go back to your previous self? Because the
Yeah.
new you is wonderful.
Oh, yes, I love who I have become as a mom
Exactly.
and as a professional, because I did not have this deep sense of empathy
Yeah.
the way I'm going about now in my life. I've always been a headstrong person, but now I make sure I carry my heart with me.
Beautiful. Nikita, this conversation has given me so much personally.
Oh,
I mean, the words that I didn't have before, like social capital, transnational identity, liminality, and so many more.
oh,
Honestly, it's given me the permission to stop thinking and start understanding why these things, feel the way they do. And that distinction, I think, matters so much. So, to everybody who's listening, I want you to do one thing after this episode. Just pick up one conversation from today's episode, just one, like a concept, and look it up. Not because we're all becoming professors here, but because, when you can name what you're feeling, it loses a little bit of its power over you. And that's exactly what Nikki taught us today. So if today's conversation made you
yes.
feel less alone, please share it with one mom who needs it. And she doesn't have to be an immigrant. She just has to be someone who's ever felt like she's disappeared somewhere along the way and is trying to find herself again. And that's what this show is all about, becoming her again. Not who you were before, but who you're becoming now with everything that you've lived and learned. Thank you so much for being here, Nikki. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
being both the professor and the person. We need
Thank you
both.
so much. Thank you so much for giving me that platform. Thank you. You're a wonderful host.
Thank you. I'm just